Victoria Hayes stood in the grand marble lobby, her worn leather portfolio held tight against her chest like a shield. The Grand Meridian Hotel was a crystal palace of gleaming chandeliers and polished floors, reflecting her own nervous face right back at her. She smoothed down her simple navy dress, the best one she owned, and took a deep, shaky breath. This was it. Her last chance. She was just a replacement, sent by her event coordination company, because the senior coordinator got sick. One night, one huge corporate gala. If she could just pull this off, she might finally prove she was more than the girl from the wrong side of town who dared to dream too big. Across that same lobby, Nathan Sterling was completely absorbed in his tablet, his jaw set in concentration. At 35, he'd built a luxury hotel empire that spanned continents, but success had a way of isolating you. He trusted numbers, contracts, and carefully planned business deals. People, on the other hand, were unpredictable, dangerous. He glanced up just as a young woman rushed past, almost crashing into a bellhop carrying a tower of champagne glasses. She apologized profusely, her cheeks flushing a bright, genuine pink. Something about her unguarded embarrassment made him pause. There was no act, no calculated charm. It was just raw, honest humanity. Shaking his head, Nathan went back to his tablet. He had a gala to run, no time for distractions. Victoria pushed the button for the 14th floor, where the gala setup was happening. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime. She stepped inside, her eyes glued to her notes. Centerpieces at 7, soundcheck at 8, guests at 9. She could do this. She had to. Just as the doors started to close, a hand shot through the gap. They reopened to reveal a tall man in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. His dark hair was styled just right, and his blue-gray eyes had an intensity that stole her breath. Going up, he stated, his voice deep and measured. It wasn't a question. Victoria just nodded, making room. He stepped in, bringing with him the scent of expensive cologne and something warm and woodsy. The elevator began its silent climb. She tried her best not to stare, but he was magnetic. The strong line of his jaw, the way his shoulders filled out his suit jacket, the slight furrow between his brows that hinted at the heavy weight of important decisions. And then suddenly, everything went black. The elevator lurched to a violent stop, throwing Victoria off balance. She stumbled, and strong hands instantly caught her arms, holding her steady in the pitch darkness. "Are you all right?" His voice was right there, close and solid and concerned. "I think so," Victoria managed, her heart pounding against her ribs. "What happened?" "Power outage, probably. The backup generators should kick in any second." But the seconds stretched into minutes, and the darkness was absolute. Victoria felt the small space closing in, her breath growing shallow. "Hey," his voice sliced through her rising panic. "Focus on my voice. What is your name?" "Victoria." "Victoria Hayes." "Nice to meet you, Victoria Hayes. I'm Nathan." He paused. "Are you claustrophobic?" "Not usually," she admitted, forcing herself to breathe slower. "But I've had a really long day, and this was supposed to be my big chance. And now, everything is falling apart." She hadn't meant to say that out loud. The darkness just seemed to pull the truth right out of her. "Your big chance," Nathan repeated thoughtfully. "Event coordinator? How did you know?" "The portfolio. The way you were studying your notes in the lobby. You have that look people get when one single night has to go perfectly." Victoria let out a small laugh in spite of everything. "That obvious, huh?" "I recognize it, because I've worn that same expression more times than I can count." And just like that, they started talking. The darkness made it easy to share secrets they would have hidden in the light. Nathan told her about the crushing pressure of maintaining an empire he'd built from nothing, about the profound loneliness that came with never knowing if people wanted him or his money. Victoria shared her dream of opening her own event planning business, about her late mother's community center that was now on the brink of closing down. "Why do you do it?" Victoria asked softly. "Keep building, keep working so hard. If it just makes you lonely." Nathan was quiet for a long moment. "'Cause when I was young, I had nothing. No family, no home, no one who believed in me. I built all of this to prove I was worth something. But somewhere along the way, I think I forgot what I was trying to prove." The raw honesty in his voice made something tighten in Victoria's chest. She reached out in the blackness, and her hand found his. "You are worth something," she said, her voice firm. "Not because of what you've built, but because of who you are right now, stuck in an elevator. Being kind to a stranger who's having a complete breakdown." Suddenly the lights flickered back on, harsh and blindingly bright. Victoria blinked, her eyes adjusting, and found herself standing impossibly close to Nathan Sterling. His hand was still holding hers, warm and strong. His eyes were locked on her face with an expression that made her pulse thunder. Neither of them moved. "I know you," Victoria breathed, the recognition finally dawning. "You're Nathan Sterling. You own this hotel." A shadow crossed his face. Shh. She watched him rebuild the walls that had just crumbled in the dark. He let go of her hand and took a step back, his expression cooling into one of professional politeness. "I am," he confirmed. "And you should get to the 14th floor. Your event awaits." The elevator chimed. The doors opened to reveal the lobby once more. They hadn't moved an inch. Victoria stepped out, turning back to look at him. "Thank you for keeping me calm." Nathan met her gaze, and for just a split second, she saw something raw and real flicker in his eyes before he masked it completely. "Good luck tonight, Victoria Hayes." As the doors closed between them, Victoria realized two things. First, she had just met the most intriguing man of her entire life. And second, that Nathan Sterling was absolutely terrified of whatever had just happened between them in that darkened elevator. She touched the back of her hand, still feeling the warmth of his, and wondered if their story had just begun, or if it had already ended before it even had a chance to start. The night stretched out before her, full of possibilities she could never have imagined when she first walked through those glass doors. Thanks for watching. If you loved this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one. 3 days had passed since the elevator incident, and Victoria couldn't stop thinking about Nathan Sterling. The gala was a success. She'd gotten a bonus, but none of it mattered as much as those 20 minutes in the dark with him. That's when her phone rang. An unknown number. It was Nathan Sterling's assistant, inviting her to a meeting the next morning. "He has a business proposition," the assistant said. What could a billionaire possibly want with her? The next day, in a stunning penthouse overlooking Central Park, Nathan made his offer. He wore a suit, his expression unreadable, nothing like the vulnerable man from the elevator. He needed someone to accompany him to events for the next month, to pretend to be his girlfriend. A traditional business partner was questioning his character. A stable relationship would help close a multi-million-dollar deal. The pay? $50,000? Enough to save her mother's community center and change her life? "Why me?" she asked, his composure finally cracked. "Because in that elevator," he said, "you saw me. Not my money, not my reputation, just me." Victoria agreed. Contract was signed. 1 month, public appearances only, complete discretion. That night, over dinner, they created their backstory. They'd met during the power outage, a story rooted in truth. He was drawn to her authenticity. "That part's true too," she said softly, and his mask slipped for just a second. Over the next week, they spent evenings together preparing. He taught her about his world, and she learned about him the small, kind gestures. The way his expression softened when he thought she wasn't looking. One evening, in his private rooftop garden, he opened up. "My mother loved gardens," he said quietly, revealing he grew up in foster care after she died. He built his empire from nothing. That's why this deal with a man who values family meant so much. Without thinking, Victoria touched his arm. "You built something extraordinary from nothing," she said. The air between them crackled. He slowly raised his hand, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "Victoria," he whispered, her name a question on his lips. But just as the moment peaked, his phone buzzed, and the walls went right back up. But she had felt it, the connection, the danger of something real. Their first public test was a charity gala. In a midnight blue gown Nathan had bought for her, she looked and felt the part. "You belong here," he assured her, his hand a steady presence on her back as cameras flashed. They met his partner, Thomas Chen, a sharp, intelligent man. "How did you capture the heart of New York's most eligible bachelor?" Thomas asked. Victoria, with a glance at Nathan, smiled. "He got stuck in an elevator with me." I guess I was the most interesting thing available." Thomas laughed, genuinely pleased. "I like her," he told Nathan. "She has humor." Later, on a quiet balcony, Nathan thanked her. You were perfect. I just told the truth, she replied. His expression turned serious. Victoria, this arrangement has boundaries. I don't do relationships. When this month ends, we walk away. His words were a warning, but they sounded more like a plea. What are you afraid of, Nathan? She asked softly. He looked at her, moonlight and shadows dancing on his face. That I might actually want something I can't control. Then he walked away, leaving her with the terrifying realization that she was falling for a man who had told her not to. 3 weeks remained, full of dangerous possibilities and the growing certainty that a heart was going to break. Victoria just prayed it wouldn't be hers. 2 weeks. That's how long it had been, and Victoria was already an expert at living a double life. By day, she was just another small-town girl, chasing dreams in the overwhelming maze of the big city. But by night, she became someone else entirely. She was Nathan Sterling's companion, a shimmering figure gracing exclusive parties, shaking hands with the city's elite and pretending the electric current that hummed between them was just for show, part of the act. But the pretense was wearing thin. The rules they'd set were crumbling one by one. Nathan started calling her in the mornings, his deep voice a gentle rumble through the phone just because he wanted to hear hers. Flowers would arrive at her office, stunning bouquets with no card, but she always knew they were from him. In the quiet moments, when they were alone, his hand would find hers, a thoughtless, instinctual reach. Before he'd catch himself and pull away, a flicker of conflict in his eyes. They were both breaking the rules, and they both knew it. The night everything changed started just like any other. Nathan's town car slid to a stop outside her apartment. He was devastatingly handsome in a black tuxedo, a modern-day prince. Tonight was the Crystal Foundation Gala, the glittering pinnacle of the charity season. As she slid into the seat beside him, her emerald green gown catching the city lights, he spoke. You look beautiful, he said. Victoria felt the familiar flush warm her cheeks. You say that every time? Because it's true every time. His voice was softer than usual, vulnerable. Their eyes met, and in that shared glance, 1,000 unspoken words hung in the air, thick and heavy with possibility. The Plaza Hotel's ballroom was a wonderland. It had been transformed into an enchanted garden, with thousands of white flowers spilling from the ceiling like a fragrant waterfall. Crystal chandeliers scattered rainbows across the glittering crowd. Victoria clung to Nathan's arm as they navigated the sea of designer gowns and bespoke suits. They found Thomas Chen near a champagne fountain, his elegant wife, Grace, at his side. Nathan, Victoria, it's wonderful to see you, Thomas boomed. Grace and I were just saying how lovely you look together. Grace Chen smiled. A warm, genuine smile that reached her eyes. You've brought a light into his eyes. I've known Nathan for 5 years, and I've never seen him smile the way he does when he looks at you. Victoria's throat tightened. A business transaction, that's all this was. A deal with an expiration date, now just 2 weeks away, if only they knew. She has a gift for that, Nathan said, and the way his gaze lingered on her made Victoria's heart perform a little flip. There was something raw in his expression, something that went far beyond their carefully worded agreement. Later, Victoria excused herself to the ladies' room. She was touching up her lipstick. She overheard voices drifting from the adjacent lounge. Can you believe Nathan Sterling finally settled down? One woman said with a cynical laugh. Please, Caroline, the other replied. That girl is clearly just another transaction for him. Probably has a contract drawn up specifying how long she needs to smile and when she's allowed to leave. Victoria's hand froze. The lipstick hovered, forgotten. You think so? Caroline sounded intrigued. Nathan Sterling doesn't do love. He does business deals. I give them 2 months tops before he trades her in for a newer model. The words were like shards of ice in her chest. They cut deeper than she could have ever expected. She stared at her own reflection, at the girl in the beautiful dress playing a part, and the truth hit her with stunning, painful clarity. She wasn't playing anymore. She had fallen completely, irrevocably in love with a man who had warned her from the very beginning that he was incapable of loving her back. When she returned to the ballroom, Nathan knew instantly. The light was gone from her eyes. What happened? He asked, his hand instinctively finding hers. Nothing, she lied, but her voice trembled, betraying her. He studied her face, his brow furrowed with genuine concern. "Victoria, can we go somewhere private, please?" Without a word, he led her through a side door down a quiet, carpeted corridor. He swiped a key card, and the door to one of the hotel's most exclusive VIP suites clicked open. The door closed behind them, muffling the distant sounds of music and laughter, sealing them in a bubble of silence. The suite was opulent, with soft lighting and floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the glittering city. But Victoria didn't see it. She walked to the window, wrapping her arms around herself, a desperate attempt to hold the shattered pieces of her heart together. "Talk to me," Nathan said from behind her. His voice was gentle, coaxing. "I overheard some women talking," she began, the words tumbling out. "They said you and I are just a business transaction. You've probably calculated exactly how long this is. This relationship serves your purposes before you move on. Victoria, those people don't know anything about us." She spun to face him, tears blurring her vision. "But they're right, aren't they? This is a business transaction. We have a contract. In 2 weeks, this ends, and we both walk away like none of it ever mattered." Nathan's jaw was a hard, tight line. "That was the agreement. I know what the agreement was." Her voice broke. "But I need to know something, and I need you to be honest with me. Has any of this been real for you? Even a little bit?" He stood frozen, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. Victoria could practically see the war raging inside him. The battle between the fortress he'd built around his heart and the truth that was clawing to get out. "Don't ask me that," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Why not?" "Because the answer might complicate your perfectly controlled life. Because you might have to admit that you feel something." The word exploded from him, raw and desperate. "Yes, because if I admit it, everything falls apart. Everything I've built, every protection I've put in place. Yes, it all crumbles." She took a hesitant step toward him. "What are you so afraid of?" "Of this," he gestured between them, his voice cracking with emotion. "Of you. Of the way you make me feel things I swore I would never feel again. Of wanting something so much that losing it could destroy me." The confession hung in the air, a living, breathing thing. "Nathan," Victoria whispered, her own fear melting away as she moved closer. "You can't live your whole life afraid of being hurt. You don't understand." He turned away, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "When I was 10, I was placed with a foster family. The Hendersons, they were kind, loving. For the first time since my mother died, I felt like I had a home. I let myself believe I could be part of their family." He paused, his shoulders rigid with memory. 6 months later, they told me they were moving overseas for work. They couldn't take me with them. I was sent back into the system, and I realized that caring about people, letting them in, it only gives them the power to leave, to hurt you. Victoria's heart ached for the little boy he had been, the man who was still carrying that profound wound. She stepped in front of him, forcing him to meet her gaze. "I'm not them," she said, her voice firm with conviction. "I'm not going to leave because things get complicated. I am standing right here, telling you that I have fallen in love with you. The real you. Not your money, not your empire. You." Nathan's eyes, stormy and conflicted, finally met hers. And in that moment she saw it. She saw the carefully constructed walls finally begin to shatter. "Victoria," he breathed her name. "I love you," she repeated, her hand coming up to cup his face. "I love the way you remember my coffee order. I love how you always hold doors for me. I love the garden you built because your mother loved flowers. I love that you are terrified of this feeling, but you're still standing here instead of running away. I can't give you what you deserve." He said, his voice thick, but his hand came up to cover hers, pressing it against his cheek. "I don't know how to be what you need. I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to be honest. Tell me what you feel right now." Nathan closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them, the storm had passed. All that was left was the clear, startling truth. "I am terrified," he admitted. "I am absolutely terrified because I have fallen in love with you too. I think I started falling in that elevator when you held my hand in the darkness. And every single day since, I've been trying to convince myself it wasn't real, that I could control it, that when this arrangement ended, I could just let you go." He pulled her closer, his other hand finding her waist, anchoring her to him. But I can't let you go. I don't want to let you go. You've become the most important part of my carefully controlled life. And you've made me realize that maybe control isn't what I need. Maybe what I need is someone brave enough to love me despite my fears. Tears streamed down Victoria's cheeks, but they were tears of pure, unadulterated joy. So what do we do now? Tear up that contract, Nathan said, his thumb gently wiping away her tears. We stop pretending this is temporary. We stop being afraid of what this could become. And what could this become? She asked, her heart soaring. A real smile, the kind she had only seen glimpses of, transformed his face. Everything. This could become everything. He leaned down and she rose on her toes to meet him. Her lips touched, soft and tentative at first. A question. Then his arms wrapped around her, pulling her flush against him. The kiss deepened, becoming an answer, a declaration of all the unspoken longing, all the denied feelings, all the desperate hope. When they finally broke apart, breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. I love you, Victoria Hayes. I am probably going to be terrible at this. I'll forget important dates and work too much and struggle to let my guard down. Lucky for you, Victoria said, smiling through her own tears. I'm patient and stubborn. And I'm not going anywhere. They stayed in that suite for hours, talking, truly talking for the first time. They built a bridge of shared fears and dreams, creating something stronger and more real than any legal document. When they finally returned to the gala, hand in hand, the pretense was gone. They were simply two people who had found each other in the dark and chosen to walk into the light. Thomas Chun noticed immediately. He pulled Nathan aside. Whatever happened tonight, I'm glad for it. That young woman loves you, and unless I'm very wrong, you love her too. Nathan looked across the room at Victoria, her face alight with laughter. I do. More than I thought I could love anything. Then the deal is yours, Thomas said, extending his hand. I don't do business with people I don't trust. And a man who can open his heart the way you have for that woman is someone I trust completely. Later in the quiet of the town car, Victoria leaned her head on Nathan's shoulder. So we really did it, she murmured. We fell in love during a fake relationship. There was never anything fake about it, Nathan replied, kissing the top of her head. Maybe we just needed the excuse of an arrangement to let our guards down. But what we feel, that's been real from the very beginning. What happens now? She asked. Nathan smiled. Now, we take it one day at a time. We build something real. We let ourselves be happy. I like that plan, Victoria whispered, tilting her face up for a kiss. As the car wound through the glittering streets of New York, carrying them toward a future neither of them had planned, but both now desperately wanted, Nathan held her close. Their contract had ended, but their story was just beginning. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video. See you next time.